What happens when one of the most beloved stars in the world suddenly becomes his own worst enemy? Will Smith, once the face of charm, talent, and unstoppable success, now finds himself at the center of endless controversies. This is the same man who gave us the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, who dominated the box office with Men in Black and Independence Day, who once had studios begging to put his name on the marquee. He was larger than life, a symbol of success, charisma, and family values. But now, he's mocked on social media, roasted in reaction videos, and accused of faking entire crowds just to sell tickets. The shift is shocking. Fans who once saw him as untouchable now see him as desperate. And here's the thing, it didn't all collapse in one night. It wasn't a single bad decision. Will Smith's downfall is a chain reaction, a mix of public scandals, questionable choices, and one unforgettable moment that changed everything. Stick around, because the deeper we go, the more jaw-dropping it gets. From Hollywood's biggest stage to humiliating music flops and AI-generated fans, this is the story of how Will Smith went from legend to punchline. But it all starts with the moment that millions watched live. The moment that broke his career. The year was 2022. The stage was set for Hollywood's biggest night. Will Smith was about to win Best Actor for his performance in King Richard, the role that was supposed to cement his legacy. But instead of being remembered for his triumph, Will Smith will forever be remembered for what happened just moments before. Chris Rock cracked a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, a light jab, at least on the surface. But then, in a move no one saw coming, Will stormed the stage and delivered one of the most infamous moments in live television history. A slap, loud, shocking, undeniable. The reaction, gasps from the audience, silence from millions watching at home. And then Chris Rock, stunned, saying, "Will Smith just smacked the out of me." That single act overshadowed everything. The applause when he won the Oscar, the emotional speech he gave about love and protecting his family. All of it was wiped away, and the fallout was immediate. Studios began delaying projects. Endorsements dried up. His public image went from polished and respected to hot-headed and unstable. The Academy moved quickly, banning him from the Oscars for 10 years. But what really stung wasn't just the punishment, it was the shift in how people saw him. For decades, Will had built a reputation as calm, funny, family-friendly, the guy everyone liked. In one night, he shattered that image. The slap wasn't just a mistake, it was a turning point, because while some celebrities bounced back from controversy, Will's misstep came at a time when the spotlight was brighter than ever, and the internet was faster than ever. Within hours, the clip was everywhere. Over 300 million views on YouTube, memes exploding on Twitter and Reddit. Suddenly, Will wasn't a respected actor, he was a meme, and memes are a curse no PR team can erase. But as bad as that moment was, it was only the spark, because what came after, the cracks in his marriage, the collapse of his career, the desperate stunts, made it clear the Oscar slap wasn't just an isolated incident. It was the beginning of a full-blown downward spiral. And the next chapter of that spiral, it would come from the one place fans thought Will Smith was strongest, his family. For years, Will and Jada Pinkett Smith seemed like the blueprint for a Hollywood power couple. Married since the late 90s, raising two talented kids, walking red carpets as a united front, they gave the impression of being unshakable. Fans loved the idea of the Smiths as a rare thing in Hollywood, a strong, stable family. But behind that carefully polished image, things were unraveling. The first crack appeared during Jada's now infamous Red Table Talk. Sitting across from Will, she openly admitted to having what she called an entanglement with R&B singer August Alsina, a man much younger than her. The moment hit like a bomb. Not only was the confession shocking, the internet immediately turned its attention to Will's face, that expression, the half smile, the watery eyes, the look of a man holding back every emotion in front of millions. Within hours, screenshots of his reaction went viral. Memes flooded social media. Some called it the saddest face on the internet. Others turned it into the Will Smith crying meme, one that still circulates today. But the drama didn't stop there. Jada later revealed something even more shocking. She and Will hadn't actually lived together since 2016. That meant for years, while the world thought they were side by side, they were living separate lives. Fans didn't know what to believe. Was the marriage real, or was it just a facade for the cameras? It wasn't just strangers piling on. Even respected commentators and fellow celebs began to question the relationship. Some argued that Will was being humiliated publicly, and his decision to forgive Jada came off as weakness. Others defended him, saying it showed loyalty and maturity. But those voices were drowned out by the relentless mockery. The Smiths had gone from Hollywood's picture-perfect family to reality TV level drama. Only this wasn't scripted. It was painfully real. And here's the kicker. While Will tried to stand tall, every new revelation chipped away at his public image. Once admired as the ideal husband and father, he was now a symbol of dysfunction. But this was only part of the storm, because while his personal life was spiraling into tabloid headlines, his career, the thing that made him a superstar in the first place, was collapsing right alongside it. And what came next would sting even more. The box office, where Will Smith once reigned supreme, suddenly turned against him. There was a time when Will Smith was the box office. Studios didn't just want him in their films, they needed him. His name on a poster practically guaranteed $100 million. From Independence Day to Men in Black to I Am Legend, Will had an almost supernatural ability to turn any movie into a global hit. He wasn't just an actor, he was a brand, one that meant money, charisma, and guaranteed success. But somewhere along the way, the magic started to fade. It began with After Earth, a project that was supposed to be a father-son adventure with his son, Jaden. Instead, it turned into one of the biggest flops of his career. Critics tore it apart. Audiences mocked it, and it became a symbol of Hollywood nepotism gone wrong. Then came Collateral Beauty. Marketed as a deep, emotional drama, the film ended up confusing audiences and tanking hard. And while Gemini Man was hyped as a groundbreaking visual spectacle, it was overshadowed by clunky storytelling and underwhelming box office numbers. Even Men in Black 3, a franchise once synonymous with his charm, underperformed compared to its predecessors. And when Emancipation was announced, fans thought maybe, just maybe, this would be the turning point. A serious role, a redemption arc, a chance for Will to prove he still had what it took. But despite the anticipation, the film fizzled. Low ticket sales, little buzz, and not nearly the critical acclaim needed to mark a true comeback. Hollywood's verdict was clear. Will Smith was no longer a safe bet. For studios, casting Will used to be like printing money, but now he was seen as risky, unpredictable, and weighed down by too much baggage. Big projects were postponed or canceled. Executives who once built entire summers around his releases started quietly moving on, and audiences noticed. On fan forums and social media, the shift was brutal. One post summed it up. Will used to be the guy. Fresh Prince, Pursuit of Happiness, Men in Black. Now, nothing hits. The past decade's been a blur of disappointment. The truth is, the slap and the marriage scandals weren't the only problems. They just magnified what had already been happening. Will's star power was slipping long before. But instead of making a calculated comeback with the right script and the right role, Will decided to go back to the very place his career first began, music, and what came out of that move would leave fans even more shocked, and for many, embarrassed. When Will Smith first broke into entertainment, it wasn't through movies, it was music. As the Fresh Prince, he and DJ Jazzy Jeff made lighthearted rap mainstream, even winning the first ever Grammy for a hip-hop song. Back then, his style was fun, clean, and universally loved. Music was the foundation of his career, the thing that first made him a household name. So when Will decided to return to music decades later, some fans thought maybe this is how he'll win people back. If acting was shaky, maybe the Fresh Prince could rise again on the mic. Nostalgia is powerful, and if he tapped into the old charm, maybe he could recapture the magic. But instead of a triumphant return, what the world got was, "I like pretty girls." From the moment the song dropped, the backlash was swift. The lyrics were painfully repetitive, almost like something written in 5 minutes. "I like pretty girls," repeated over and over. Critics slammed it as juvenile, especially for a man in his 50s. The visuals didn't help either. Flashy but hollow, coming off less like a comeback and more like a midlife crisis dressed as a music video. Fans didn't hold back. On YouTube, the dislike bar shot up, with over 60% of viewers giving it a thumbs down. Reaction channels went in hard. One popular creator called it a flaming dumpster fire of a song. Another said, "This isn't even hate, it's just straight up trash." I can't believe this is from Will Smith. Even longtime fans were stunned. People who grew up on The Fresh Prince admitted they couldn't defend this one. The vibe wasn't fun or nostalgic. It was awkward, even creepy at times. Instead of reminding fans why they loved him, the song pushed them further away. If the music flop wasn't bad enough, Will's next move managed to spark even more controversy. And this time, it wasn't about lyrics or performances, it was about whether he even had real fans left. To promote his European tour, Will posted a flashy video on YouTube. At first glance, it looked impressive. Huge crowds, screaming fans, and packed venues. On the surface, it painted the picture of a star still commanding global attention. For a moment, it almost looked like the Fresh Prince was back on top, but fans started looking closer. Something didn't add up. In the crowd shots, faces looked warped, hands multiplied unnaturally, bodies blended together in ways that didn't even make sense. It didn't take long for viewers to figure out the truth. Those weren't real fans. They were AI generated, and once the internet caught on, it exploded. Memes spread instantly. People joked that not even artificial intelligence could save Will's career. They speculated that the AI crowds were a cost-cutting trick, a way to avoid showing empty arenas. On forums, posts popped up claiming his fortune had dried up, and that this was proof he couldn't even afford a real audience anymore. Now, let's be real. Will Smith isn't broke. This is a man who was once one of Hollywood's highest paid actors, earning tens of millions per film. But the fact that people even believed the rumors showed just how far his reputation had fallen. Because the issue wasn't money, it was trust. Will's story isn't unique. Plenty of stars have fallen from grace. The difference is that some found ways to rise again, and comparing Will's choices to theirs only makes his fall look even steeper. Will Smith isn't the first star to crash. Hollywood is filled with comeback stories, the kind that prove even the worst fall doesn't have to be permanent. When they look at Will Smith right now, they see desperation. And that's what makes his situation so tragic. Because if anyone had the talent, the charisma, and the history to stage a jaw-dropping comeback, it was Will Smith. But instead of rising from the ashes, he's been fueling the fire. Which leaves one final question hanging in the air. Is Will's story headed toward redemption? Or is it already over? Will Smith's story is proof of how fast everything can change. He had the career, the family image, the money, the global respect. For decades, he was the guy everyone wanted to be, or at least the guy everyone wanted to watch. And then, piece by piece, it slipped away. The Oscar slap destroyed his polished image. The marriage scandals turned him into a meme. His box office power collapsed, leaving flop after flop. His attempt at a music comeback was mocked as embarrassing. And the AI crowd stunt? That didn't just look desperate. It made people wonder if Will Smith even had real fans left. Here's the tragedy. Will's downfall wasn't about talent disappearing. He's still capable of giving powerful performances. It was about choices. Each time he had a chance to rebuild, he went for gimmicks instead of authenticity. And in today's world, audiences can smell desperation a mile away. But is this really the end of Will Smith? That's the question.